You son of a biscuit.
Auxiliary input set correctly.
I don't want.
There it is.
I don't want to hear it. Take two.
Take two.
All right. In three. Hello again. This is Kael Decadence of the Mind Clash podcast again, doing another introduction because I don't know how to press buttons. So we're gonna do this again really quickly. Hi, I'm Kael Decadence. We have Meredudd as usual.
Hi, I'm here for 5 minutes. Goodbye.
Here and there. Bye bye. Also, we have Claevyan.
Yeah, hey guys, how's it going?
It's going. Apparently, we're gonna do intros again. Claevyan, you're from Wormholes.
Yeah, that's right, Wormhole Space. I fly with the Suicide Express and the Rejection of Sovereignty Alliance.
Nice. Nikolai again. Hello, hello. And Senor Toxic Yaken.
Howdy.
Yeah, so we were just talking about the, how long did we say? 2 years? And how long for the
3
patch?
months and 27.5 minutes?
Yes, that is the estimated downtime that CCP will have tomorrow when they launch the YC 119.7 patch, otherwise known as the who gives a shit patch, because we don't have any names anymore.
Why can't we go back to things like Rubicon?
That is a good question. Meredudd, do you want to tell me how I can turn Nikolai up 25%?
I'm sure he would if he was still here.
Oh crap. Nikolai, can you turn yourself up 25%?
Right click on his name in Discord and slide it up.
See, you know these tricks and I don't.
I know.
Oh, look at that, I found out things. Why didn't you tell me this before? Making me look like a dummy.
So the world started 4 billion years ago.
Listen, I don't want your science talk. Anyways, so talking about this patch day, tomorrow's the patch day. It's actually going to be 105 minutes specifically estimated downtime for some weird reason. So that would be an hour and 15 minutes? No. I don't math. Hour and 35 minutes.
You're gonna have just over an hour and a half. So
That's close.
An hour
Yeah.
and 45.
Yep, hour and 45 minutes.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. Good thing I'm going to be at work or whatever. But yeah, so anybody excited about the patch tomorrow?
So yes. It's one of those, like, there's aspects of the gameplay that this patch is going to really be changing that I'm kind of trepidatious on, but overall, the theory crafting that my people and I have done has kind of gotten us excited for the new possibilities that this patch is going to introduce.
Yeah.
So I'd have to go with yes.
Yeah, I agree. I feel the same way. It's like there's nothing in particular that I'm just like, ooh, yay, but also at the same time, I'm like, this could have potential for stuff later, but I don't know what that is yet.
Right. So, like, we had the whole, cloaky hunters going on, and now those things are disappearing for the most part. Like, they're completely changing it up, but they're replacing that with a whole new way of using T3 cruisers, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting. So yes, they are going to be. We'll quickly go over some of that stuff that they're going to do tomorrow. So it's been talked about to death. Strategic cruiser rebalance. Hide your kids. Hide your wife. You better duck up because they rape in every T3. Seriously, they're pretty much taking things down from 5 subsystems to 4. They're taking away the electronic subsystem. So if you have any of those subsystems and the necessary other skills trained for that up to whatever level, you're going to get all that back. Awesome. So that's fun. Get free skillsies.
You get a slight, very small injection of ISK for the skill books.
Yep, that too. So if you have had those skill books, you get that back. I'm sure it's going to be at whatever seated price, so it'll be like, I don't know, 100,000 ISK maybe.
I just feel really bad for anybody that logged off in a T3 cruiser that's going to be logging back in tomorrow that was out in space somewhere.
Well, it's not going to be that bad because I guess they're going to. So when they do the conversion, the subsystem that you have in that spot that most closely converts to the other one, they'll pull that out and put it into your cargo, and then whatever other, they're just going to change everything, so it's not like you're going to log in and your ship's going to blow up. So if for some reason you had no idea this was happening and you log in tomorrow and you're like, WTF, don't worry, you can still fly your stuff, you just might be missing something attached that wasn't there, but it's in your cargo.
Well, I mean, when you lose all your other attachments as well, like you'll basically be sitting there with a
No.
paper thin ship.
Well, yeah, anything that
It
was
doesn't translate.
yeah, anything that doesn't translate, they'll take it off and put it in your cargo. But I mean,
So yeah, if you've got like, I don't know, if you had 5 high slots fitted and now you can have 6, then there's going to be an empty high slot, but you might have one of your low slots is now gone. And the module that was in that spot will just, like, one of those random modules which should be in your cargo hold. If not, it'll just be offlined. It's one of those situations where modules that no longer fit aren't going to be destroyed. They'll just be offlined.
yeah, and something.
Right. We had that happen with the T3Ds as well, and they just offline them. It doesn't go anywhere.
Yes.
I was kind of thinking of a ritual suicide kind of thing with that, with my Hunter Tengu for Bomber's Bar, that I would just log off in space and let it die when I log back in.
See what happens. Yeah. So
Can't let go, man.
what Lieutenant Stuff said in chat, and I thought I heard other people saying this, but I never saw anything about it, was that the T3s have a subsystem hangar. So inside the ship, your stuff will be moved into that subsystem hangar.
Right. So it's going to be one of those special, like they've been kind of on a kick lately about doing a little bit more special hangars, like when they added fleet hangars and stuff to capitals across the board, and
Yeah.
now the Blood Raider Corpse Bay and all that kind of stuff.
Yep. So that fun thing's gonna happen tomorrow. There's also gonna be skins for Minmatar holes, which will be the Firewall Breach skin in celebration of Liberation Day. So from my understanding, as for lore, if you are a Minmatar slave, as of this day tomorrow, you are no longer a slave in the future. But that hasn't happened yet.
So they're
Not the
still
future.
slaves?
Well, it's not the future. It's not the future yet, man.
Oh,
They're
right.
going to be slaves, but they aren't. Yeah, I don't know, dude.
Time travel
Just
is
like
weird.
Kael doesn't math, I don't time travel.
Yep. Yep. Also gonna be some redesigns. There's gonna be redesigns in space as far as the battle stations. Will have a visual overhaul. The Rupture Munin and Broadsword will have redesigns. They look pretty cool. And then, of course, we have the Project Discovery Phase 2, the Exoplanets one. Meredudd's done a little bit of exploring on that. I have not. It is up on Sissy now, but tomorrow you'll be able to play it for real skis.
You know, that's actually one of my most anticipated changes with this patch outside of the strategic cruiser overhaul.
Me too. One of the interesting, not just the format and the objective itself, but then some of the rewards they've introduced for this one specifically.
Yeah, I mean, to put it honestly, I'm all about the rewards. I really want to see those Concord ships get out there. And right now, the crazy, ridiculous prices for these Concord ships is a little bit outside of my current budget range. I'm not space rich anymore. But just Project Discovery in and of itself is pretty awesome, especially with what they're going to be doing with exoplanet searching and what we were able to do with the group outsourcing that they did for the previous Project Discovery. And so I really like Project Discovery in and of itself and that concept, and I'm really looking forward to this next phase of Project Discovery.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's going to be pretty fun. It's going to be just another one of those things that I can do while I'm orca mining or whatever weird stuff I do at 2 o'clock in the morning while I'm supposed to be working.
Waiting in a fleet with Bomber's Bar.
I actually have not done that. But I have waited in fleets in a bomber for CO2, and that was not fun. Let's see, what else tomorrow? Tomorrow is the agency, which is also releasing, which nobody really knows what that has to do with anything other than it's going to be another themed event. So like we had last year for the Serpentis thing, same deal. You do a bunch of dumb stuff. You know, you kill 5 pirate frigates in your whatever ship, and you get a prize for it. So you're gonna have all that kinds of stuff. You get plex, you get skins, you get points or something. I don't know. Nobody cares because I don't know. I'm not really excited about it because I don't know anything about it. Like as far as like what is the agency?
The agency missions seem to be a part of Eve that I missed. Apparently, it's a callback to a series of missions that were done a couple of years ago with the Scope. Yeah, Scope. And that's like happened during a time frame where I wasn't actually playing Eve. So while it's old, I have no idea what it is either. I think it's like a daily rewards system.
Yeah, it's gonna be like a daily reward type of thing. You know, every day you're gonna log in. It's gonna say how these 5 different tasks that you can do, and as you do them, you get points for it. But I actually asked Ash Tarathi, who's our resident lore expert, and even he has no clue what this agency thing is. Like it just kind of seems this thing that they just said, let's give this a name, and then they called it that and went with it.
Kind of feels like they didn't want to call it Scope anymore, so they just chose a different name instead of actually working it into the lore.
Correct. There's no real explanation. So that's fun and exciting. Let's see, just last week also they released the June monthly economic report. So if you know how to read that kind of stuff, I'm gonna link this stuff in the chat, so I'm not just sharing it with myself. So I'm linking the June MER. So if you know numbers and know how to look at that stuff and whatnot, should be fun for you. Also, did anybody watch anything today?
Like a totally not question and answer session?
A wholly 20 minutes of not question and answer on screen. However, CCP Rise, the Savior, did actually answer quite a many number of questions within the chat. So if you're not aware, today at about noonish time for me here in the central US, CCP did a live stream. All they said the other day or last week when they announced it was, we're going to have a live stream Q&A. Check us out this time. So you logged in, and the stream was all of about 20 minutes of, I would call it a live devlog.
That seems accurate based on what happened, yeah. Like, it did not feel at all like a question and answer session. It felt like what Rise did kind of in the background was a question and answer session, but the video itself, the stream itself, was more just a live devlog.
Right.
Yeah, so I was watching it while I was at work. It was actually lunchtime, and I just kind of had it on my phone, and I was watching it as I was eating, and I was kind of following along, but I had other stuff I was kind of doing in the background. And then when they're like, okay, well, that's it for the stream, thank you very much, I was just like, wait, I'm sorry, what? Like, aren't you going to answer any questions? And like the entire stream was like, WTF, like what's happening? For those of you in the chat, I just posted the link to the Imperium.news article, which kind of like summed up the Q&A. It's actually really, really accurate. Pretty good little article. But yeah, so there were some interesting things that came out of it. However, it was just a live devlog. So they talked about they want to balance alpha clones. Well, duh. Like, obviously they're a little wonky. Flat cannon destroyers, cool, which is like an anti-fighter destroyer platform. They want to focus more on lore and like in-game, like tying the lore into in-game events and having like in live events. So they're looking for a live producer amongst, I think, 4 or 5 other jobs, from looking for like a content manager, a live producer, looking for dudes in the UK, looking for dudes in Reykjavik, and looking for a dude in Hong Kong, I believe. So if you want to work for CCP, they got like 6 jobs open.
Unfortunately, I believe that entails you not associating with your EVE Online account that you currently have anymore.
True story.
Right. There have been people that have come back after ceasing to work for CCP.
Oh yeah.
But,
Oh yeah.
And I've been able to talk. They can't even really talk about their old character. They can only make vague references, like, "Oh, I know so and so," or "I once flew with whoever," but
Yeah.
they can't say like what character they were or
Yeah.
things like
Yeah, like my character's name is Claevyan.
Yep. So along with that, they also want to do, like I said, a lot more live events, more streams. Hopefully, if they do more streams, they're not exactly like how that happened today. And they also said that in August, they're going to announce their winter changes, which will have a focus on PvE and moons. So like I said, it's stuff that we already kind of knew. They were just announcing it in a live format. But if you get a chance, look at the transcripts. The transcripts are published by CCP, but they were also on that Imperium News article, which has kind of like a breakdown and a lot of good questions from the chat that Rise answered.
I know it's easy to criticize them, but one of the things I've kind of noticed is you see some of CCP's growing pains, because they had the new player help session. Was it a week or 2 ago? Where they actually got out in space, saw a bunch of people, went and ran around, answered some questions. Actually, kind of did Q&A and help session kind of thing, not about dev stuff, but about not the live dev blog, but actually answering questions and showing people the game. And you can just kind of tell they're not quite at the level of some streamers even, but they're definitely starting to get there, at least wanting to provide that kind of content, because it's good marketing, it's good for the players, it's good for everybody to get that kind of stuff out there, but it needs to be better produced.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't actually watch the other one that they did. What was it, last week or the week before? How did that go?
Yeah, I flew around with them a little bit because they were pretty easy to snipe.
Oh,
But
man.
people were running around remote repping them and asking questions or opening convos with them, things like that. But it was during the Rogue Swarm event, so I guess it was about 2 or 3 weeks ago, or maybe it was a month ago. I don't know, dude. Time's flying.
Yeah. But again, Lieutenant Stuffs, who's our #1 chatter in the chat channel right now, says they should make tutorial videos that don't suck. Yeah, I've actually commented on that before, and I've talked about it. #1, make CCP. Make tutorial videos that don't suck. And #2, make them more obvious and part of the actual tutorial system. Because they have that Flight Academy videos that really suck.
Right. The funny thing is, so many people that have been playing the game forever don't even know about them because they are so bad.
I had no
because
idea.
Nobody's going to tell you to go look at them because they're bad. They're bad enough that you don't want to. You should just go to YouTube or look up a streamer or somebody else.
Yeah,
get their explanation.
I had no clue that those even existed until like several months after. I was like, what are you talking about?
I remember finding those Flight Academy videos after I'd played EVE for like 3 years and then stopped for a bit, and watching them going, wait, were these made before I started playing? And then realizing, no, they had been made like a week before I found them.
So anyways, other than that, there's not much else going on. What have you guys been doing in EVE Online lately? Because I'll tell you what, I had family here last week, and I did not do any playing of the EVE. So what have you guys been doing up to in EVE?
Recently for me, we were doing this little thing that we call Wormhole NATO. where somebody was being evicted and they asked for help and we came and helped. So wormhole pos bashing.
And that's still a thing, huh?
Yep, still a thing.
So I've been just doing some ISK, making some smaller operations and things, but I've missed a lot of PvP. I've been moving in a laptop and kind of off my main time zone. So
Yeah, I had my laptop available, and I did log in a couple times, but it was mostly just to add to my skill queue for my alpha characters, and I just kind of putzed around on one of my alpha characters because you can't play Eve on a laptop. Let's get real. At least
Yeah,
not.
I've tried it.
Yeah, it's not fun. Because you get the one tiny little 15 or 17-inch screen, and you got to have at least 2 to 3 screens. I mean, this is ridiculous. You have to.
You say that as I stare at my 122-inch monitor.
On a laptop.
Oh.
see, I just went from a 17-inch screen to my 26, and I'm like in heaven. But here's the other part. Since we finally moved in, my second 24-inch is arriving tomorrow.
Nice. Yeah, it's a wonderful thing. I don't even know what size mine are. 27. I got two 27s. It's beautiful.
I'm excited.
But yeah, so I've brought you fine young individuals onto the show today because I thought it'd be a fun topic to talk about war decks. I know war decks are something that all you guys are somewhat familiar with, or actually very familiar with. Especially Toxic, you are a member of this little group that does like the white paper thing.
Yeah, I do run the War Dec Project, which has been kind of inactive lately because I recently moved and got married in the same month. So yeah, it's been busy. Like I'm just starting to get back into playing, and I just failed my gank. Fuck. So yeah, that whole project was about having discussions about ways to, come up with better ways for War Decs to work in the game, because a lot of people are pretty unhappy with the way it works right now. There's a lot of people who say it's just a kind of griefing tool. It's for people to get around Concord. It's just going against. It's just people are going against new bros, just killing new bros easily, and not really looking for actual fights. And people have a lot of problems with it.
So for those who are uninformed, what exactly is a declaration of war or a war deck?
So a war deck is when you formally declare war against another corporation. It allows you to shoot at players of the opposite corporation without getting obstructed by Concord or gate guns or station guns. So a lot of groups will use it as a way to, let's say somebody has a citadel set up somewhere and you don't like them because they called you bad names or they stole your stuff, then you can declare war on them and then go tear down their citadel. But what a lot of other groups do right now is more of a tool for them to get lots and lots of kills in high sec. So, for example, a lot of the big mercenary groups that operate in high sec will have dozens, if not hundreds, of wars active at the same time, which allows their members to have lots of easy content, or they can just kind of fly around, find people from opposing corporations and attack them, generally in, small gang kind of stuff. But there's been, a lot of people complaining about how these big groups are very focused around living around the trade hubs, around the trade pipes, not really looking for fights and just trying to farm lots and lots of easy kills for lots of ISK. And a lot of people are kind of leaning towards they want to see more things that kind of make war deckers come out of their their safe spaces and kind of have to fight for their war decks to continue. I know that's a very common thing. One of the big suggestions has been people want to see more objective based gameplay where war deckers would have like something they need to defend in order to keep fighting, so that they can keep fighting for their content. But it's been a very long and ongoing debate.
Yeah, because I tried to do a little bit of research over the past couple days about the concept of War Decks and like when it started. I don't really know when it actually was implemented in game. Is that something that was just always there, or did that come like a few years after? I don't really know.
I couldn't. It's before my time. It's been around
Yeah.
for a really long time.
Yeah. Okay. So all that what you said. So basically, what you're talking about is, you're in a corporation. You don't like another corporation. You pay pretty much an ISK sync. You're paying, I believe it's minimum of like 50 million, max cap at 500 million to declare war on another corporation, which gives you free reign to blap them wherever you see fit without having to worry about Concord coming in and get you. So one cool thing about it is, like you said, if you're in a corporation and maybe like, oh, that corporation over there is, using up all my PI on this planet and I want to try and get rid of them, declare war on them, try and flush them out of the system. Cool, great concept, great mechanic. However, what a lot of people use it for is, hey, you see that new bro corporation over there? Let's just go camp them out and just make their lives miserable for the next week or so until they just give up and lose all motivation.
And I don't think they're intentionally doing that, but they're definitely looking for
Oh, I think
groups
so.
that have. They're looking for groups that have lots of content. Like if I see a corporation that's like 400 active members, and it costs me 500 mil, that's tons of targets that I can shoot at.
Yeah.
But yeah, obviously, a lot of those players are probably newer players.
Yeah, so there's a lot of different things that you can do with this. So number one, you can do that. Two, let's say like you even have a bigger alliance. A lot of places like Pirate, Marmite Collective. Who's some other ones? Some big ones. MC.
Vendetta.
Yeah,
Oh,
MC
MC
Vendetta.
more of a nullsec.
Yeah. So what they do is they'll declare war on other big alliances for either just for fun or if they get a contract to do it. And even though like say they do it on CO2 or the goons, like obviously that's a huge target, but you might have those onesies and twosies players who like, oh, I just joined the goons and I'm gonna move from my high sec home into nullsec, and they get hit on the gate, coming from a high sec system, or if they're doing trade runs or whatever, it kind of leaves them as a target. What are some other tactics you guys have seen as far as reasons why one should war deck?
So, speaking from a wormholer perspective, the War Dec mechanic is one that kind of it can add some grief when you've got people like Marmite or Pirate, those groups that we've already mentioned that are basically war decking multiple corporations at once to try and maximize the amount of available targets at any one time to shoot. It becomes annoying because they're not really hunting for you. They're not really looking for an opportunity to shoot you, and they're not really looking for a fight to come back. Right, and so it's just you're moving your fuel or you're moving your goods from a high sec trade hub to a wormhole, and that back and forth movement is being interrupted, and so it can get kind of annoying. But there's multiple ways around it. So war decks don't really affect that nearly as much. Where the mechanic for wormholers comes into play effectively and where it's actually good for the game content is in situations like what I just went through with the POS bash and anti-eviction fleet that we were doing, where the individuals that were fighting, the two primary parties that were fighting, had declared war on each other. And that way, when they left the wormhole or when they got potted out of the wormhole, they were still a valid target in high sec as they were trying to make their way back to their home system to defend it. And so you had a constant means of being able to fight these people because you weren't just looking for content, you were actually trying to remove them from space and claim that section of space as your own. And so that's where the mechanic actually came in and allowed that back and forth type of strategic gameplay.
Yeah, that is another aspect of it, is the fact that it can be a mutually agreed upon war. It doesn't have to be just one side, declaring war on the other. They can actually mutually agree to it so they can have some fun. So that is a good aspect of it. And like you said, that worked out just fine.
Pretty much our whole purpose.
Yeah. So, I guess like, what do you guys think are like some really major downfalls to this whole system?
So the major things are there's absolutely no limit and there's no defense other than going to an NPC corp or staying out of that space. So because they camp, basically there's a couple major pipes that run between the trade hubs or out to different parts of space. They camp those or the hubs themselves, and that's it. And that's all they have to do. So they don't have to hunt, number one. They have unlimited numbers of War Decs. The cost is not that big a deal when you look at the income they get from the War Decs and the fact that you can mitigate it by basically not paying the bill. So if you don't pay the bill, the War Deck ends. So if you don't leave the deck, try and leave the deck on permanently or for an extended period of time, you don't really have to pay these exorbitant costs. You can just War Deck somebody for a week. If you don't see them again, no big deal. If you see them, you kill them, loot their crap, and then, move on. So that's one reason you see wars ending and starting so often, is because so few are actually based around objectives that take more than a week to accomplish. So one of the only times you need to really worry about it is with citadels or things like that. And I know I was working on a piece about the citadels and the market hubs in Perimeter and in the Forge, where Horde basically took those because of the taxes on the citadel markets. They basically got into issue. The market owner basically went back on a deal and tried to renegotiate, tried to hoard all this money, all this ISK, and they didn't have it. So Horde war decked them, took down all the citadels, and started putting up their own. But they were basically, the previous market owner just hopped corpse and hopped alts every chance they got, or took up and put down citadels every other week. And there was no way to actually attack them. So because the way the core mechanics, the citadel mechanics, and the war deck mechanics work, it makes for a really bad gameplay where you can't actually achieve the few objectives that you're supposed to be able to with the war deck system. It's just, there really are some really, really crappy parts to the whole thing.
So I take it you're on the side of like tweaking the mechanics of it, as opposed to some people who want it completely abolished.
There needs to be some system of conflict in HiSec. How they change it, I'm open to a lot of the suggestions that are made. There are some that are out there that are good. There's some that are bad. I like the one that has been discussed in the War Deck group about some sort of structure that's required, or some sort of, something to lose that they have to fight over if you want to War Deck people, even if it's limited, even if it's just a certain number of War Decks or a certain number per corp, or a regional thing, or however they do it. I like that part. I like those changes or those options, but they definitely need to be implemented in the right way.
So you mean
there's also been some ISK scale, like cost scaling suggestions that I think would be interesting. That would kind of help things as well.
So like, what with that last idea, you meant like having something that you have to
I've
maybe...
heard the suggestion that basically you have to have a structure in space, or a service on a citadel, or however it's done. So basically something that allows you to either be deckable or to deck. And it was even suggested in the CSM. I remember Jane and a few others, Jane from Spectre Fleet and a few others that were on the CSM, did suggest, it wasn't the time for CCP to worry about war decks. They weren't worried about it at the time. It wasn't a priority. I'm not sure if it is now, or I don't know, dude. But basically their suggestion was allow social corps that aren't NPC corporations that have a high tax rate, that basically they aren't war deckable. This will help new players. This will help, some of the, like you said, social groups. But kind of doing a similar thing to mercenaries themselves is the other idea, that you have to have something in space to be able to deck somebody, but you also have to have something in space to be war decked. I don't necessarily like that idea because it's a little too riskless. Like basically, if gankers and war deckers are the two things you have to worry about the most in high sec.
So
So
I
if
could
you're in a
see-
corporation, you're worried about the war deckers. If you're not in a corporation, you're worried about gankers, and that's about it. You're just eliminating one of those options.
I could see a collateral type system being put up.
Right. Now, those are really interesting suggestions where there's something at risk that the defender basically has.
Or that, like, I'm going to declare war on this person, and not just paying Concord to keep a blind eye to it, but also putting up like a piece of collateral or something that's like, at the end of this war, whoever's the victor basically gets this, right?
Right.
And if it becomes a mutual war deck, then it'd be like, well, here's extra collateral that's going up, right? So then both sides are offering something, but that the person declaring war actually has to put something of a significant value up, so that if they lose, well, hey, they're going to lose like this significant thing. I could see that type of system going in, but I'm not entirely sure how that would be accomplished.
Right. And I think that's how everybody in the conversations that I've had about war decks are not sure how. Nobody's sure how everything would look, or what right looks like, or what all the details are, but everybody is sure that right now things are bad, and that there are good theoretical options out there for possibilities in the future. So when CCP does decide that it is time to renew the system and fix it in a more permanent way, that hopefully those people are able to get through, either through the CSM or through just developer interaction with the community, that it's not just a bad idea when they do fix it. Because that's one thing I'm more sick of than bad mechanics, is bad fixes to bad mechanics that just, it's a new crappy way of doing things instead of a good way of doing things.
Hey, Toxic, is it acceptable if I link that white paper into the chat? That's not like a private thing, right?
No, that's fine. You can do
All right, let me just link that over there.
it. Or link the Discord if you want.
But one of the other things is that most of the mercenaries or war deckers, however, everybody has their own way of thinking of themselves. Some of them are similar, some of them aren't. But a lot of them are blue to each other, or peaceful with each other anyway, because they know it's not worth the hassle to fight each other. Or they draw a line, say, okay, you stay in this region, I'll stay in this region, and they fight, or they let each other own the Pocos, destroy citadels, all that other stuff. But basically, so they don't compete with each other over either defense or offensive contracts. They just stick to their areas and their methods, and don't really interfere with each other's. There aren't a high number of people or a high number of groups that go against that idea.
I was gonna say, at this point now, almost all the medium to large size mercenary groups are pretty closely tied together around Vendetta, like even more so than it was maybe like a couple months ago. I think the biggest ones left right now are probably Public Enemy, Pirate, and I know Right is another mercenary group, but I think they're folding into Vendetta right now. Project Alpha is also folding into Vendetta. Yeah, the only big opposition left to the Blue Donut right now is Marmot Collective.
I was about to say, I'm pretty sure they're involved in a pretty big war against everybody else.
Yeah,
right now.
I'm on right now. I'm on the side. Well, I'm on a third party side, which is against Marmot right now, and yeah, it's pretty one sided right now, to be honest.
It is pretty funny to see how things kind of have changed through the years, because we've been at Marmite's throat before, but they've been at ours, and we've also been friendly with them before, and it's funny to talk. I've talked to Tor recently, and it's kind of them versus the world as far as high sec war decking groups go.
Yes.
Speaking of Marmite, there was actually when my corporation decided to go back into wormhole space, there was like 3 guys that didn't want to and actually joined with Marmite, because for them the high sec war decking mechanic was the means of them having instant content for only the 1 or 2 hours a day they can actually log into Eve.
Well,
and so they weren't viewing it.
I mean, that's essentially the premise of RVB, which is where I'm coming from.
But I mean, the same
Um,
thing with any other, like even a big nullsec alliance. Like I could be just sitting around doing nothing, and I get a ping on Discord or whatever that says, "Hey, fleet's going out." You just log in, do that for 2 hours, and get off. I mean,
but
anytime that I
but
log
see, that's
in,
the thing. You say just log in, but it could be for 2 hours. It could turn into a tie-dye fest. It could
sure,
turn into a wormhole fight. It could last for 4 hours. And I've been on Bombers Bar fleets that have lasted 4 hours when I thought it'd be, 2. Or I've been in bigger fights like that kind of thing where it just turns into multi-hour things where you actually have to like retire your FC or your fleet and have new people come in, a new like reinforcements come in so the other guys can just log off. And
yeah,
that's
sure,
not I don't want to I don't think that compares to I want to log in for 30 minutes and get quick easy content. And I mean you can hope that when you log in that somebody comes to you or that you're going to somebody else, but ping warrioring is, I think, very different
yeah,
from just easy access
right. But also at the same
to.
time, like if you want to log in, do your thing, whether you're in whatever wormhole, nullsec, whatever, blah blah, you're gonna get the same amount of, well, I don't want to say the same amount of content, but you have the same chances of getting content anywhere else except for, doing it, say, a solo PvP in low or null is not really the same as blapping some, Eve University newbie who has no clue what he's doing anyways.
Right.
You
No,
know,
absolutely. I don't. I hope it didn't come off that way.
no. I'm just saying, like, it's just it's hard to justify that when you're thinking like, okay, this guy's been playing Eve Online for all of 2 weeks, and he just joined this corporation because he thought it was cool. Then all of a sudden he's like, why did I just die? I thought I wasn't supposed to die in high sec or whatever. And he's like, well, f this, I'm gonna quit.
Right. And one of the interesting. I don't remember if it was part of the actual live discussion or not, but Dunk Dinkle talked about
Mm-hmm.
that from Brave that happened so much that like Marmite is one of the thorns in his side because
Mm-hmm.
he'll say wait to accept the app or do the remote moving of your clone home station and then self-destruct. But they'll always have people who don't listen or don't get the message or whatever that try and just like bring their stuff with them or whatever, and always they die, and some of them quit or some of them leave or whatever happens.
Yeah,
And
I
I do
mean,
agree that that is something that's detrimental to the game, and it's not one of those like I'm kind of tired of hearing it, but it's
yeah.
said so much.
I mean,
The
it all kind of depends on
you're
on
not.
the person too.
I just mean the idea that you're not for Eve or Eve isn't for you because you don't like the fact that this happened.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think that goes a little too far
Well,
sometimes.
yeah. I mean, I can give you a prime example. I pulled in two friends with me to play Eve about I think, yeah, about 2 years ago. Same time. It was before Alpha, but I gave him a link, and I told him I'd give him some ISK, and I'd give him some chips or whatever. They skilled up for a while, and one guy, seemed really into it. He wanted to try all these different things. Another guy was just basically um, vanity. He was very into
Mhm.
the looks of certain ships. He was like, "Oh, I think this ship class is really cool. I'm gonna train into this." So he wanted to train on Mars ships and bright and shiny. And we're like, "Hey, let's go out and just roam together. I'll show you guys how to do low sec and this and that." And we all went down in a blaze of glory in a rather short order. Uh, Whereas myself and the one friend was like, you know what happens? The other friend immediately raged. Like you could
Hmm.
hear him destroying his desk. Like
Jeez.
literally, like he was like, "F this. This is stupid. I quit." And you can hear him as he was unplugging stuff, disconnected.
Hmm.
Uh, TeamSpeak went offline. Done. He's like, I called him later. He's like, "No, fuck that
Jeez.
game. I uninstalled it. Blah 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 blah." So it's just a person, like you said. It's some people are made for it, and some people just can't
Right.
handle it.
There is that to a degree that some people just don't. But I think it's different from other games in good and bad ways. But that's one of the things that if people transfer some of those feelings of permanence from other games, it's not going to work out. You got to get used to the life and death cycle and losing stuff.
Yeah, I was even like, bro, like
But
I'll give you that. I'll give you another shit back. Like it's not a big deal. And he's like,
right.
nope, that's it. I'm done.
but also in the same line, let's think about it. The people who do like and play Eve and who stay eventually turn into a similar kind of, like, think of the saltiest people that lose stuff. Like, they've been playing the game for a long time, but some of them still like, oh, I lost my, 2 billion ISK ratting rattlesnake, or mission running marauder, or whatever it is. That those are people who probably said, harden up, or Eve isn't for you, or whatever, and then eventually some of them become, the same kind of people.
Again, that's, some people are different. Like about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, it was when they did the fighter changes, or when they announced the fighter changes, and I was like, well, people are talking about doing VNI ratting or Ishtar ratting as an alternative. I said, what, let me go try this to see how well I would do as opposed to carrier ratting. First thing I did was took out Ishtar, like, I don't know, like a 600 mil, 800 mil Ishtar. Went out to a site to do some ratting. I'm talking, I didn't even have time to align back to the station. That's how quickly I was killed by rats. I said, okay, that's fine. Went back, got a VNI, turned right back around, went to the same site. It took me about 2 hours to do it, but I did it. But then I went to the next site and blapped immediately. So I lost an Ishtar and a VNI, within a matter of like 4 hours. Right. And I was just like, whatever, guess what I did? I went and grabbed another VNI.
Yeah.
I mean,
but that's one of the things that attracts, it attracts a lot of people, but that's one of the things that attracts me is the risk and the lack of ease in some ways that some other games they really are just too easy and too riskless. Like the way they progress you and the way they hold your hand and the way they, persist. There's not a lot of permanence to the fact that you lose something. Like, oh, okay, you'll respawn and you have to wait a little bit or whatever to be exactly where you were.
Yeah. So God damn it, where did we go? We digressed.
Digression is important.
Anyway, so yeah, I mean, I can see the pros. There's obviously cons. There could definitely be some things. You guys talked about having like social groups. I know in the War Dec Project, document talked a little bit about having social groups. Nikolai, you talked a little bit about maybe we should have some sort of structure. I'm thinking something like maybe like a war room inside of a station or a citadel that you have to have installed in order to participate in war. That costs money, or some sort of upkeep to that as well. Is there any other like things that you could think, off the top of your head, like what can we do to make this better?
One of the interesting ones that I didn't have the idea, just somebody suggested it in one of the conversations. I think it was actually at FanFest, but I mentioned it, but it's just changing the ISK mechanic. Somebody suggested reversing the trend for size versus ISK cost, because right now it costs a minimum of 50 mil, but that's for any corporation, and then it scales with the membership of the corporation. You're decking up to 500 mil per week to War Dec somebody, and somebody suggested reversing that and basically making it, instead of 50 to 500 mil, it's 50 mil to like 5 bill or something like that. But the smallest groups are the ones that cost the most. So that way, the people who can afford the War Decs, the people who are the large groups, because they have veterancy, they have assets, they have all those other things, those can be just War Decked. I mean, logically, it doesn't necessarily make sense, but the mechanic, I think, could produce, better results. Saying, hey, it's not worth you spending the ISK to War Dec this 5-man industrial corp or this group of new guys. But somebody with 2,000 members, yeah, go ahead and you can do that one for cheap.
Yeah, so changing the barrier to entry kind of deal.
Right.
The main issue with that, though, is that now you're giving people who just have one-man corp for their citadel
exactly
500 mil, 5 bill War Dec cost.
Right.
Don't you tell me how to game the system.
Right, especially when you combine it with like Goblin's Complaint from Horde, that you can basically make your Citadel invulnerable if you anchor it, if you transfer it, depending on how exactly you do it.
It was like if you unanchor it.
It's impossible to take down a Citadel and Highsec is not easy prey in those situations.
Not fun either.
Yeah. So you guys said earlier about it just was never on CCP's timetable and it wasn't quite the right time to do it. Like, at what point you're gonna say, okay, like, this needs to be the right time? Because this winter they're gonna be doing PvE and doing some things with high-sec factions and stuff like that. Is that gonna be the time, or are we still gonna be waiting?
For me personally, no, because we use high-sec in a mutual war for Red vs. Blue to basically gain that space where we can have fun and casual stuff. But at heart, I've always been kind of a low-sec, solo or small gang kind of guy. So I can go there if I want to do, just shoot on my own or with a few people or during off hours, or I can do RVB stuff. And the War Dec mechanics really don't affect me that much. So they're never going to be like a make or break. As long as we can persist in the way things we do, I'm not really worried about it. It's never going to be like a CCP ultimatum for me, at least.
All right.
It would be nice, but
Right. It would be very nice.
I don't expect it. It's just like want more changes. There's a whole bunch of stuff people want.
I mean, to the same point, that we don't get bothered. Like, we get war decks. We just had one with, I think, Pirate and a couple others. I mean, they come and go because they do it when they think they can get easy kill. Then they don't pay the bill, and they know that we'll put up a fight if they start doing more than just camping the Jita on dock. Which is usually how things start or end, is somebody either is about to lose something or has lost something in the Jita undock, and they undock like 20 nesters and try to save it. And then a war deck starts. Like,
I think, just for me personally, one of the biggest issues I have with the War Dec mechanic isn't necessarily the mechanic as it is the way the mechanic is used and the individuals that like to really use it.
Right, but structure kind of, especially in a game that is like Eve, like, structure is going to determine that. If you don't fix you have to fix it at the mechanical level. You can't just say, I don't think anyway, people quit being stupid and using this in a bad way. You have to change the method because people are going to do what's easiest. Just like ganking.
Oh yeah, no,
some people do it for salt. Some people do ganking for salt, but most people do it because it actually makes ISK. You can lose 40 million catalysts or, 1 billion in Talos or something else and still get, double that in loot.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you there. And for a time, I was actually part of a high-sec war decking group, and we would go around and we would actually hunt down targets and, write down exactly when they played and where they were most active and actually look for people that we could fight with. But for the most part, what I've seen in the last, 6 years has been more of an inclination towards a griefing tactic or if you're going to bring a fight, we don't really want that. Like, I remember rolling up to the to Jita 4-4 with a 12-man fleet, and we had, like, sacks, and we were ready to brawl it out, and the people we were going to fight with were looking at it going, oh no, we can't do that, and they brought out all of their logi that was in a different corp, and so it wasn't part of the war deck, and they started repping their ships up, and we started shooting their logi, and then everybody docked, and there was no actual fight.
Right.
And then as soon as we left, one of our guys logs back in and just gets alphaed off grid, and they're like, ha, we showed you. And it's like, well, that wasn't actually the point. Like, you declared war, we brought war, and you just left.
Right.
But
and that's
how
to
change the mechanic to actually encourage people to fight, to actually make it something that you're going to do, I don't know.
Right. Well, one of the complaints that I've had having this conversation for the 100th time is that a lot of the war deckers say it's CCP's fault for removing watch lists and removing incentives to go find people or go hunt people. And I've always been that kind of person. Like, if you want to know something about somebody, you got to go find the information. That's kind of what I did. But people expect to just have, like, oh, we don't have the watch list anymore. We can't tell if they're online. They don't have enough information that is readily accessible, either in-game or out, that I can, go hunt them, or there's no purpose on hunting them. And to me, if they're not worth hunting, then why are you war decking them in the first place? I don't know. Because even to this day, if I want to war deck somebody, the reason is for an asset, and I know information about that first, and then you do your research on whether you can take the fight or not the other way around. Like, oh, I see a hauler in space, I'm just going to war deck his corp and make him drop to NPC, or blap him the next time he comes through if he comes through this pipe.
For sure. Yeah, it's a lot of good stuff. You guys have enlightened myself as to a lot of the ins and outs of War Decs. I don't think we're going to go too much longer with this topic. I do have to do some stuff early in the morning, but if there's anything else you guys want to talk about as far as that before we start rolling into like some final announcements and shout outs.
No, well, good.
Anybody else? Okay, cool. So wrapping things up real quick, I just want to give out some information. On the 20th of July, there would be the Eve Northeast meetup. It's not really a meetup, it's actually like a camping weekend. So if you know Jay McLean from Eve Best of Us fame, he started doing this a couple years ago. Basically, go out, do some camping. There's going to be a lot of big names there. You're going to find, of course, Jay McLean, Dirk McGurk, probably Mrs. McGurk doing some camping. So you're going to go out, camp, have a good time. So I'm going to link the sign up to that, but it's basically evenortheast.com. I'm sure you got to sign up ahead of time. I know there's a cost involved. Make sure you have your camping gear ready to go, because that's always fun. Claevyan, do you want to mention something about something?
Oh, no, I was answering a question that Toxic had asked.
Oh, okay, cool. And then on the 22nd, hold on, let me just link that up thing real quick. On the 22nd of July, there's both going to be a Eve Manchester meet and also the Gankatron 17, I believe it is. 15, 16, 17, yeah. Gankatron 17 reboot, which is being put on by Kael. So I will link both of those here, but you can check out all these on evemeet.net. They have all the information on where to sign up. There's Discord links. I don't want to link their Discord because I know how it is when you link Discord to a bunch of weirdos. They blow it up and go crazy with it. Let's see what else. Also the 29th of July. So we're talking just a few weekends away. They're going to start doing the Alliance Tournament weekend number 1, and that's going to be first hosted by EVNT. So it's not going to be the official CCP stream, but on the 29th there's a few places that are hosting viewing parties. I myself also am thinking about hosting a viewing party at the Bit Bar, which is a place that I've done the Fort Hood area Eve meet before. They now
I may join you there if I'm not with the EVNT crew.
Yes, and they now have liquor there. They have their liquor license, so that'll make it that much more fun.
So I've got a couple of things. First was that I believe Toxic and I, or at least our alliances, will be facing each other that first day of Alliance Tournament. Road Capel
Right.
and Rejection of Sovereignty.
Face off.
Nice.
There you go.
Yeah, good luck, Rote.
Yeah.
Sorry, I gotta vote for Rote on this one.
Do you think that within the next few weeks that CCP is going to come out with something that says, oh, we're going to have an in-game betting system? Do Do you see that as a possibility?
They should
No,
but we asked for a stand-up casino module last year, but it didn't happen. So,
Aw.
I think that's what made watching the tournaments last year worth it, because I could bet on different teams and win money or not. I'm pretty sure I lost about a couple, maybe billion. I don't want to say how much, but I lost a bill or more. I'm not good at betting, but hey, someone made money off of me.
I took the odds on our team, because I was on it, and it was like 5-1. So we were like, you know what? I gotta build a spare. Let's do it.
As we were wrapping up, I had one more question for you guys.
Yeah.
Are any of you guys looking to run for CSM again next round? Are you thinking about it?
Depending on what my real life situation is, I would consider it sometime. But
Yeah.
I'll have to see how the next year goes and how real life is.
Yeah, like I'd put some good thought into it at the beginning of the year, and I really wanted to, and my last alliance leader really wanted me to as well, to go with him as like a running mate. But I just think, my personal time, like I just don't have enough as it is already, and I don't think I want to do it again.
I probably will again, yes.
Yeah, all right. I'm thinking about running for it again as well.
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of personal time. Like I wish I had more of it than I do, but damn it, like I don't even have enough time to actually log in to play the game that I want to play, let alone, CSM.
I do have a quick shout out.
Hit it.
Since the AT is running, and just so people know, one of these you can still sign up for, one of them you can't. But Spectre Fleet and the Tuskers are both running separate tournaments the weekend prior. The Tuskers one has already closed registration. So if you're not in, sorry, but you can still watch it. I know they have been in contact with them. They should have some volunteers to stream it. That one will be live on TQ. The Spectre Fleet one will be in HiSec. But that one you can still sign up for. So get in contact with somebody from Spectre Fleet, or go to the Spectre Fleet website and get on their Discord, and you can sign up for that one. Those are going to be the 22nd for the Tuskers tournament and the 23rd, I believe, for the Spectre Fleet. So the Tuskers is the solo one, and the Spectre Fleet tournament is going to be like a 3v3 cruiser down type thing.
I'm surprised more groups that do these kind of things. Like, how hard would it be to set up that Thunderdome server? I mean, is it just a matter of emailing a dev?
Well, I was one of the first to request it, but it was still too close to the Alliance tournament. The other people the first people to actually get it was the EVNT crew. Got it in December of last year for an event. But now it is much easier. Basically, it's email Logibro and lay out your plan. But if you have a plan, he will answer you. Basically, it was just too soon and too close to the time that I needed it for me to get in for RVB's tournament last year.
Yeah,
but really we're gonna get it this year. But they did it for Theomaki. They do it. It's so much easier now that things are running. Basically, if it's not one of those super hectic times, like I said, basically you lay out your plan. You say, here is my plan for this event, and here's what I need, and he'll tell you, like, this is when I need the names of people that need access by. This is, what else I need from you, and he'll set it up. And he's even offered for depending on the event, some of them he can amend the rules on Thunderdome to fit your event.
Nice, yeah, it's good to know.
Since there are some things on there that are set up specifically for the AT, that like the rules or the teleportation system, or you can teleport the teams, and the rules and the points are all calculated based on AT stuff. But basically that can be redone, or you can just ignore it if your event fits like that.
Cool. Real quick before, let's see, nobody else had any shout outs?
I have shout outs.
Hit it.
All right. First shout out's going to go to Rote. Hope you guys do well in AT. Again, I feel like I've come online. I see them all talking about fittings and doing their practices and stuff, and I just sit there quietly and try to work my spreadsheets. And another shout out to my buddy Max Grimfang, who taught me how to do war decking and is a very good hunter, even though he's kind of an asshole. Love you, buddy.
Nice. So, real quick, right before we finish this up, if you've listened to the show before or if you've been on before, you know sometimes we like to do this thing where we talk about another podcast that we've may or may not be listening to. Does anybody have a quick podcast shout out that they want people to know about?
High Drag.
Yes, they've actually been putting out a little bit more often than they used to. So good on those guys. I love High Drag. That was one of the it was the very first podcast. I think it was like episode number 34 or something like that I listened to. And if it was not for that episode and that podcast, I would not be playing Eve right now.
Nice.
Yeah, they're the first I listened to too.
Yeah.
And random
Talking in Stations.
Yeah.
Talking in Stations is pretty good.
Yeah.
Just shouting that out there.
Yeah, absolutely. I literally have a podcast app on my phone, and every week I just download all the new podcasts, and I listen to it about 1.7 to 2 times normal human listening speed. So I kind of like pull in as much information as possible. Yeah, it's crazy. Like I actually tried listening to something at like just normal speed last week because my family was in the car, and it was like a history podcast, and I literally felt like I was retarded because can you say that? Can you say retarded? It's my show. I do what I want. So I just felt like I was listening to a bunch of retards because I was like, man, they are talking really slowly, but it was because I was listening at normal human speed. But the podcast that I want to shout out to real quick is actually called Brain Up, and it's a kind of like a sciencey, technology-based podcast, but it's kind of like centered around questions that kids would ask that they're curious to know things about. So when I'm traveling around with my family and we're listening in the car, I don't want to listen to EVE Online or weird beer podcasts. So we listen to this, and a kid asks a question, and then an adult will come in, or like some sort of teacher or scientist will explain that thing. So one of the things they're doing for summer is all about cars and like race cars and engines, and how does a combustion engine work and stuff like that. So it's pretty neat stuff that the kids can really get into. So
Cool.
yeah, that's mine. Let's see. So other than that, yeah, I appreciate you guys coming on and talking with us tonight about that. Yeah, so you can catch me. I'm at Kael Decadence on Twitter, and I know Toxic is at Toxic_Yaken, and Nikolai is simply at Nikolai Mazinkov. And I guess you can get a hold of Claevyan in game somehow.
I also just made a Twitter account, and it's
Look at
literally
you.
at Claevyan.
Look at
It's your
you.
J tag.
It's just at Claevyan.
Nice. Yeah, so just send a message if there was anything that we talked about on the show that we didn't quite answer. You can always just send us a little message on Twitter. You can find me in game at the same name, and you can always check out our show Discord and chat with us at any time. The link is at the bottom of the channel, and I always put it in the podcast format, so there's always a way to get it, or you can just send me a message. I'll give you the link, and you can chat with us, and we can figure out a show for next week. All
Hey,
right.
thanks for having us here, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it. So from all of us to those of you out in podcast land, have a excellent night.